Hello and welcome to the fabulous world of my channel. I don't know what that means. This is a super chill video. Semi-educational, actually. Maybe educational. I don't know how many of my viewers use 3D printers, but I got asked recently to talk about some of my 3D printing stuff. So I figured why not give that a try. Yes, I want to boot up Binding of Isaac on a 3D printing episode. It's exactly what I need to do. Just bring up Binding of Isaac and just play that instead. Psych! This isn't about 3D modeling. This is about tricking you and making you think that this is something that I know how to do. Full disclosure, I am an amateur 3D artist. I don't do a whole lot of this. A lot of the stuff that I do is borrowed or stolen, depending on how you feel. Most of this is Creative Commons. I don't sell any of this stuff. If friends of mine ask me to print something for them, I print it for them, and sometimes if it's a big enough or complicated enough thing that I put some time into, I'll have them pay me for the materials. But I don't usually go out of my way to have people pay for things. It doesn't really bother me at all. I bought this 3D printer primarily to enjoy it. So I have the FlashForge Adventurer 3. Actually, you can see all of the search history of the FlashForge. This is it right here. This is my baby. It cost me $450, which in the realm of filament 3D printers is not the cheapest by any stretch, but it's also not the most expensive. It's not the biggest nor the smallest, although I will say the one flaw that I do have with it, the one issue I take with it is this, come on. This door right here, this little panel, is supposed to be where the filament lives. It is not big enough for any spool that I've purchased. It was big enough for the spool that fit for the test, the PLA that they gave me for the test. That was about it. So I ended up 3D printing actually with some aftermarket ABS because I didn't realize the issue really until after it was already too late. I 3D printed some spool holders, so my spool of plastic hangs out off to the side right about here. Not the big of a deal, but might irritate some people, I guess. Anyway, it works fairly quickly, quote unquote. Something worth noting is that in 3D printing, it takes a lot of time. You're essentially taking plastic of some sort of material. Most commonly, especially in what I use, is ABS, which don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but I've been working with ABS since my very first job in software engineering, actually. So I was very comfortable with this. It was also the first place that I messed with a 3D printer and got familiar with some of this stuff. So just so you know, this is not something that I'm brand new to, but it's not something that I've gotten super in depth with. Why would you want to do any of this? There are useful things like this universal coat hanger thing that you print off. You put a dowel in, you can hang your clothes across the dowel kind of thing. Maybe you want a lamp. You can hook up some like low heat LEDs really quickly inside of one of these lamps. Looks like that's what they did, maybe. And so you print the separate parts and and then you assemble it afterward. If you're wondering what the site is, that I've been dancing my cursor around like a madman, just trying to induce the smallest of seizures. I don't know how seizures work usually, so I apologize. That's my own ignorance. But it is what it is. I sounded like Porky Pig there for a second, but it is what it is. This is Thingiverse. This is by a company called MakerBot. They also make their own 3D printers, but they provide a platform where people can 3D model and upload their items to, or their designs to the interwebs. It supports 3D viewing if you upload an STL file for view. So like this, you can show it in 3 dimensions and you can drag around. This actually is kind of a nifty tool, one that I actually could find a lot of use for. This goes over top of the tops of Allen wrenches, so if you can't get enough leverage on your Allen wrenches up top, because sometimes you have a long narrow shaft that you have to use the long end of the Allen wrench for. This prevents it from like digging into your finger, I think, and it allows you to grip it a little bit better. That's pretty nifty. I like that. You can create a profile, you can sign up, sign in, whatever, and then you can save things. You can collect things into different collections. I really love this website. It doesn't by any means have everything that I need for my 3D printing stuff. You'll see that I use Blender primarily for my stuff because it's free. It's also a really powerful tool. There's some modification that we'll talk about with this that you'll have to do before you can export to the file type that we need. Primarily what I use this for, though, is for miniatures for D&D. So I found a different place that I could find D&D stuff, specifically for the campaign that's coming up. But you can find things like the Squid Game mask, or like this book holder for like a Yoda book holder or whatever. These really cool designs. Some people can do monitorizers. A lot of cool stuff. If you think about it, you can make it pretty easily. Deck boxes for Uno, like that's cool. Toothpaste, or I guess this is a pasta bag clip, never mind. But there are some that are like toothpaste squeezers, so you can get every last drop of toothpaste. Pliers case, or snips. I think these are actually snips, not pliers. But yeah, these are snips. I don't know what they're smoking. But these are snips. These are for cutting wire, and they're very sharp on the points, so stabbable, and they're very sharp on the inside, so very sliceable. So this is just a nice little tuck case for them. But I browse this site for hours on end when I actually have free time, which is rare anymore, but it does happen. If you don't want to use MakerBot Thingiverse, that's okay. You can also just go to Google and type in, like, if you're looking for something specific, like, I don't know, an STL for, say, yeah, that's what I want. St. Louis, thank you. St. Louis Cardinals, heck yeah. Getting into sports on this channel. That's not something you'll really see out of me. You can just do like STL, I don't know, like Bugbear. And Thingiverse is going to come up. I recommend this creator. I'm not sponsored by him. I don't know him or her, I guess, technically. But this individual, MZ4250, makes some of the most incredible 3D models, and then they offer them up for free. So I haven't yet, but I do plan on supporting them on Patreon, because they have all of their own 3D models for Rime of the Frostmaiden for Dungeons & Dragons, which is huge. To give you an idea, some of these miniatures can go anywhere between like $3 and like $25, depending on the size and the intricacy and stuff like that. This particular one would probably go for like $4 or $5 for the intricacy and everything, and then you still have to paint some of these yourself too. If you want them fully painted, they can be $8 to $10. 3D printing this, it does take some work, but 3D printing this takes all of, like, I don't know, like 12 cents, maybe. I actually wrote an algorithm tool. It's on a different computer, though, that I should bring over to my personal computer. But this is that I can plug in the weight and everything like that, and it'll tell me how much it costs. But this person, MZ4250, absolutely love their work. But maybe it's not on Thingiverse. Yegi has been really hit and miss. It's been more of just a landing page for me, which is kind of what it is. You can see, like, here's a bugbear with a halberd. Here's a bugbear coin. There's all kinds of stuff here. And some of these are going to be paid. Some of these are going to be premium. Some of these are going to be free. The reason I like Thingiverse is you can pretty much guarantee that the models you're looking at are going to be free. Well, that's nifty. But there are other websites out there that exist. Cults 3D is one. You can also, if you're into tabletop, look up HeroForge, and HeroForge does have a way that you can design a character in here and then export to an STL file. An STL, I forgot to mention when I plugged it in here, STL, it's also known as a step file. It is what you will need for most 3D printers. They do have their own proprietary version per printer usually, but like I think for FlashForge it's FPP, but for the most part STLs are pretty ubiquitous. So you could do this, and then you could buy right here the STL, and in this case it's going to be $8. It's a significant amount of money, but if you genericize your character looks like, or what you're doing, like maybe these are NPCs, you can print off as many of them as you want. Or say a miniature breaks, God forbid, and you need to remake it, you can just print it. So sometimes it's worth the money, especially if you need a very specialized character or you really want one. That being said, let's jump into something a little bit easier. Let's say we want to print something from Thingiverse, please. I don't want to print this. I don't have a whole lot of plastic left in my printer, so I'll have to load that up as soon as possible. But Catan, I've got ideas for how to do that. But we could print something pretty easily, like this hatch flow ring. This is cool. I don't know what size it is or what finger it is or whatever, but you can kind of. Jeez, I wish I had a brain sometimes. But you can see that there's this ability to preview it, and you can download it. This is interesting. We can talk about curves a little bit more here, because 3D printers don't generally like curves. The way a 3D printer works is bring up an image real quick. The way this works, it's the opposite of a CNC machine. So instead of being subtractive or destructive like a CNC machine where you're milling something out of a block or a billet, this is an additive process. So you have an extruder. Let's see if we can. So you have this extruder, and that's this gray nozzle thing here. This gets very hot. Sorry, I'm very disjointed because I don't take notes before I do this. I don't storyboard stuff. So, like, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. So if you have questions, throw them in the comments, please, because I will not cover it if I don't realize that that's an assumption that I've made. But anyway, so ABS, you have to heat it up really stinking hot in order to get it where it will flow. So you have this giant spool off to the side, or in the side of this. It looks like ABS filament. You can find it on Amazon, or at a local 3D printing shop if you've got one of those. I do not, that I know of. So it just looks like this. There goes my air freshener again. And you can buy it in a bunch of different colors. I recommend sticking to like a dark gray, a white, and I have a clear one as well. That I can print things that look like ice or glass for set pieces. So just so you know, dark gray is the best because you can see shadows and highlights better with it, whereas with black or white it's much harder to see what's support material and what is like your actual part. The part refers to anything that you're intentionally printing. Anyway, so ABS plastic, in order to heat this up, you have to have your bed temperature. This is called your build plate or your build bed, or just the bed. This black square back here behind this FlashForge. This build plate back here in this particular model is removable, which is nice and flexible. Not all 3D printers have that. A lot of them will have a glass build plate, and you have to be careful that is super flexible. Or not flexible, sorry, super level. You want to make sure it's very level. You want to make sure that you're not digging it up or scraping it up too hard or anything like that. And we'll get into settings at some point, but your settings are going to differ based on your printer. Anyway, so this extruder here gets very hot. So your build plate gets to, I want to say for ABS, it sits at about 90 degrees Celsius. The extruder, though, sits at about 230 or 235 Celsius. Which gets you to almost 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So don't touch metal tip. Don't touch the tip, because it will give you third-degree burns very quickly. And if you get molten plastic on you, it clings like cooking oil does, only worse because it has a lot of mass to it. It doesn't drip off. It sticks and it welds itself to your skin. So don't touch build plate. Don't touch extruder. And not this whole gray thing is an extruder. This is like a plastic thermal casing insulator to protect you and to protect the nozzle itself. This little yellow dot here is actually the extruder, and it is a very, very fine point with a hole in the very, very tip of it, where the plastic, which is fed by this feeder tube here from your spool and an automated servo motor. Motor. It's not a servo or a motor. It is a step motor in the side of this that will pull up the plastic in through this tubing, and this technically coils around here and down into your extruder. Your extruder heat will melt that ABS filament, that very thin filament. So it comes down, and this, as I said, the 3D printer does not do well with round parts because we have the, I want to say this is the X-axis. You have a Y-axis, which would be front, which is this flash forge, to back, which is that white grid back there. So you have the X-axis, the Y-axis, and then you have a Z-axis, which is this verticality here. There are a couple of screws that drive this entire head here. So that's up and down motion, back and forth laterally and depth-wise. And that's important because we're additively creating an item rather than subtractively, like I said, with the CNC machine or a mill. In this case, though, because we have a straight line, and a depth straight line as well. I can't demonstrate that well here. Actually, I can here. You would have your Z-axis is this blue. You have the Y-axis, which is green. And then you have the X-axis, which is red. So you can move apart, or you can print your print head will move up and down, front to back, and side to side. So that's important to know, because making circles with that is incredibly difficult, and it takes a lot of fidelity, a lot of resolution, and not most printers don't have that kind of resolution anyway. If they do, the software is tuned in very, very nicely, and not all of them have that. Obviously, the more money you spend on a 3D printer, likely the more resolution it will have. It is something worth looking at, but if you're doing something like I'm doing, I only need a moderate amount of resolution, and this printer has been wonderful. The support for the company, or the company's support for this product, sucks. Forums are the way to go for it. I can't stand behind FlashForge whatsoever, but this product here has served me well once I've dialed it in. And it has taken a few months of dialing in because I, like I said, am really new to 3D printing. I do recommend this model, but they're not sponsoring me or anything like that. If they want to, I'm willing to talk to them, but their first thing has to be addressing their freaking help desk. And what do they care about somebody that has like 18 subs on YouTube? Anyway, so square box, or a square cube here, squared off cube, and that makes it hard to make circles. So we're going to do the hardest thing possible here and print this ring. I think this will be a good thing to do. So the first thing you do is download all files. So when you download from Thingiverse, you get this STL file. This STL file is important because it has all the instructions for the actual 3D model. If we want to bring it into Blender, delete your seed object by selecting it and hitting DEL or delete on your keyboard, depending on what kind of keyboard you've got. And this is not a Blender tutorial. I will do some Blender stuff when we get into changing some designs here and there. I am not an expert at this. This is not my forte. I am learning this, and it takes a lot. But there are tutorials out there. Oh, yes, there absolutely are tutorials out there for Blender. Hey, this is future me cutting in to tell you that this is the end of this episode. I had recorded this kind of off the cuff. As I've said before, I don't script things, I don't storyboard things, because I'm a fool that has trouble planning these kinds of things, because I have trouble putting together what I have envisioned for something. So this video ended up recording way longer than I had wanted for a single episode of this. So I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to release another video that extends this forward. It's a little bit wonky, I know, sorry about that, but this first episode does not need to be over an hour long. So just so you know, the next episode where I talk about some of the additions to the signet ring and the modifications, as well as the time lapse, will be released in at least one other video, if not more. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, please hit the like button. Helps out a lot. It tells me that you enjoy this kind of content. If you really liked it, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell icon. Make sure you're selecting that you get all notifications so that you know when I put stuff out there. But also, be on the lookout for the next episode that should be coming out that pairs up with this particular episode. Thanks so much, and until next time, have a good one.